I could see you in like a pearl-colored Bugatti.
You're probably buying a dog with fleas.
It doesn't exist right now, so let's be realistic about this.
Is that Scott Adams over there? I can't see very well. That's Scott over there talking about this?
He's
it sounds like you.
I know.
Hey everyone, it's time for another episode of Moron Real Estate. My name is Clint Wetherill, and you are kicking it with the Homeboys, and as always, I'm here with Mr. Scott Adams.
We've got some new clips today we haven't seen, so you want to just dive in?
Let's do this, man.
So I want to do a deep dive into why the housing market is currently a lot more devious than you might think, and why the middle class is being priced completely out. Several recent articles that were broken by journalists at the Wall Street Journal and the Atlantic detailed how hedge funds and pensions are actually squeezing the lower class out of the market to create a rental empire. And here's the way it works. Billionaire hedge funds step in and they buy every single house that they can find at 20 to 50% above asking price, sometimes entire neighborhoods. This ensures that normal buyers are completely priced out, and it skyrockets the price of housing to insane numbers. This is especially true of places like Houston, where 25% of all home purchases made were not made by young couples looking for their forever home. They were made by corporations completely locking down the market. And anybody who lived through 2008 knows that this does not end well. So stay tuned for part 2.
Ooh, I love it.
Is that Scott Adams over there? I can't see very well. That's Scott over there talking about this?
He's
it sounds like you.
I know. I love it.
You sent me an article, just it was a 60 Minutes clip that talked all about this. I've known about it for a long time, but really it's your world. You've dealt with this a lot, and I mean, I think that with the exception of 20 to 50%, we're seeing more 10 to 30%, here. But I mean, I think it's a real problem in our country.
It's true. My only argument against what he said, and now I agree with everything he said. Let me be clear. I agree with absolutely everything he said. I think it's great he's talking about it. People need to be aware of it. This is one of the factors affecting the market. It's not the only one, but one of them. However, we don't know that this will end badly. We think it will. He thinks it will. I think a lot of really smart people think it will. However, these hedge funds are full of really smart people. We were shocked when they first started doing this, and we thought they would have been burned by now. When they first started doing this,
good point.
10 years ago, you and I said they will be out of business within 2 years. Mm-hmm. But in a sense, they've created their own market, and we didn't see that factor built in. So there are some unknowns that make me question whether I'm crazy and whether he's crazy. But to me, I still think the smart people are betting against these hedge funds, and I think the market's going to eventually people are going to get bit if they're not careful. So we preach being conservative right now. You can still find value investment properties. That's why we are long-term investors, because we believe in cash flowing assets that create returns. We're not looking for just to make money and ride the market up and cash out. And we just believe in the wealth that you can build through cash flowing assets. And the truth is, you can do that in any type of market scenario if you're real conservative and you have a good plan. So
I love seeing clips like this, because this guy's not flash. He's just basically stating facts.
Yep. And
it's cool. It's refreshing to see some of this. We see a lot of garbage on this show and just in general on real estate investing on social media, but keep doing what you're doing, man.
This deserves 1 million views.
Yep. Next.
I really want to start investing in real estate for passive income, but I just don't have 20 grand to put down. I totally get it. Have you ever heard of REITs? I think so. Tell me again. REITs is REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts. They are stocks or index funds that are essentially property management, apartments, commercial buildings, mortgages even. The real estate investment trusts collect the rent and the mortgage payments, and they pay it back to you in the form of a dividend. So it's like they're paying me the rent, sort of. Yeah, so the investor buys the shares of a REIT. The REIT buys income generating properties. People who live there pay their rent and their mortgages. The REIT collects that money and they give it back to you in the form of a dividend. Wow, I have never heard of that. Yeah, I mean, passive income and investing is kind of my thing. You should follow.
Well, it's a good explanation of what REITs are. I think she needs to be careful into giving too much advice any further where she left off there, because she's going to get into some Securities and Exchange Commission grounds there. But she explained what REITs are. That's what they are. We've been investors in REITs. We know the good and the bad with them.
I hate them.
Yeah, I do too.
I hate them.
But she described what they are. That is what they are.
She did.
So.
I think you know my story on REITs. It wasn't just a little bit of money. I had about $100,000 in one at one time. The biggest problem and the biggest caveat I can throw out there to our listeners is sometimes, a lot of times, REITs aren't easy to get out of. And I sat there and watched money evaporate in the REIT that I was in. Two, you got to be careful of what REIT you get into. I am big against certain types of commercial real estate. And a lot of REITs have commercial real estate in them that I simply don't believe in. I've talked about it on our Homeboys podcast, vacancies and strip centers and, different places, more people working from home and not going to these mega office complexes. I think that there's a bumpy road ahead for some commercial real estate. And if these REITs are heavy into that, I'd be real cautious. Also, the housing market has been absolutely bananas. What goes up must come down. I don't know that parking a lot of money into a REIT is a good idea at this time. In fact, I would say that it is not.
Yeah, so you also have to understand the management fees and the loads that come out of these REITs. They're very beneficial historically for the companies that build these REITs. They're pretty heavy in those, and they can be difficult to get out of. I think you should talk to a licensed financial advisor before you would look at a product like this. Don't just talk to realtors or real estate investors. I think you need to get all sides of the story for this. And I would beware of many financial advisors who push these REITs because they understand that they are difficult to get out of. And when he said he just sat there and watched it lose money and couldn't sell it, this wasn't during 2008. This wasn't during the collapse. This was after. Mm-hmm. This was after. This was during good times. So
maybe there's some good ones out there. I had a poor experience. I don't care to look into it again. I would literally take the prospectus and wipe my rear end with it.
Yeah. I think that's what you should do with REITs, in my opinion.
Maybe some people out there know more than I do. I had a negative experience.
Sure.
And that's kind of what our job is, on this podcast.
To be honest.
On the show is to tell people our real life experience. So anyhow, agreed. Good explanation. Don't like the investment.
Yeah. Next.
Here's how you can tell if a property like this will cash flow in seconds. It's called the 1% rule. Take the home price, multiply it by 1%. If the property can't rent for this every single month, then it probably won't cash flow.
Well, that's the 1% rule, and it doesn't exist right now. So let's be realistic about this. I mean, you can't buy a house for $450,000 that brings in $4,500 in rents. It doesn't exist right now. It's a good little rule of thumb to just start with, to know.
It used to be the main rule of thumb.
For sure. We lived by it for many, many years. Right now, the returns are a little less than that. So if you throw away every house or property that you're looking at that doesn't hit this, then you're not going to be able to buy any houses.
The other caveat I would say is that if there is something out there that rings true in this 1% equation that he's explaining, you're probably buying a dog with fleas. Because if it's a good property, very, very slim chance in today's market climate that you're gonna achieve that.
But people will ask, well, if it's a dog with fleas, why would it have such great returns?
If you want me to take a dump in a box at Market Guaranteed, I will. But until then, I'm going to buy a quality product from you.
I love it. Yeah, he's right. I mean, if I see a 1% rule, a property, a house, even an apartment building that hits this, I am usually
red
just
flag,
running.
Red flag.
At the very least, I am going to dig deep and to figure out why. And if it shows 1% on paper, it's not going to be 1% in real life.
But what this gentleman is saying,
it's a good little starting point.
It's a good thing for people to know.
Mm-hmm. All right, next.
What is your number one piece of real estate advice for investors?
Know your timing. Real estate is cyclical, and I've made all my money buying properties when they're distressed, they're in a down cycle. And almost everyone I bought those properties from end up giving it to the bank because they bought it at the wrong timing, at the top of the cycle or at the peak. And so know your timing. You make your money on the buy. So buy it when it's distressed.
A lot of good points in here.
Yeah, but I think there's like auditioning for like the most interesting man in the world beer commercials, the Dos Equis commercials.
Yeah. We've got a 2008 farm truck out here that we use to haul trash. We should do a show from the parking lot where we park that behind it.
Right.
Us,
I agree with what he's saying. Right. Everything he said was right. I absolutely detest the whole look at me mentality of look at these fancy cars.
Right.
Look at my Gucci loafers or whatever the heck he's wearing, and all this. I'm a redneck from Southern Indiana that's happened to do exceptionally well in real estate. I don't have to pull all that BS to like impress people.
Your friends would literally punch you in the face if you pulled up in one of those cars.
They wouldn't be my friends any longer.
No,
they love me.
But to get to some of his info,
they love me because I'm not like that.
Right.
But I agree with what he said. He's just probably not a guy that I'm having a beer with.
Right. So to get to his info, though, there's a few things. Warren Buffett says when there's blood in the streets, buy. He's right. That's when you buy when times are distressed. However, it's incredibly hard to time the market. It's hard to really know. Even experts don't know when it's the peak and it's about to go down. They don't know when it's the bottom and it's about to go up. You have a good idea, but to just say it so easily, like you just time the market, that's how you do it. Well, that's not that easy. And instead, one of the other options, because timing the market is incredibly hard even for the smartest people, is to just be a value investor and you look at things for a long-term investment as a cash flow property. And if the numbers work when you're buying it, then they'll continue to work. So there's ways. He makes it sound easy, like you just time the market and then you go buy a Bugatti and a Lamborghini. Well, everyone would do that if it were that easy.
Right.
It's not that easy. So instead, consider doing the conservative approach and still building great wealth. And you could have those cars if you wanted, if you do it the way we do it.
What did you just buy this week?
I bought a 1990 Jeep Wrangler.
That's what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a 1995 Chevy Tahoe.
You do.
So.
Right. And don't get me wrong. I'm embarrassed to even say this, but we could afford those cars. We don't believe in living that way. We believe in long-term real estate investing and living conservatively and living great lives. So, I don't know. It's just weird to me.
I agree. I don't know. That stuff just makes my blood boil. Like the whole look at me. I'm rich.
I could see you in like a pearl-colored Bugatti for some reason, like
couldn't
with a
you?
red interior.
Yeah, couldn't you?
Like cherry red interior.
Yeah. Murder me.
I know.
In fact, you couldn't make me drive the car.
Oh,
It's just not who I am.
Yeah, I'd be so embarrassed. I would be so embarrassed.
Correct.
Can you imagine what my family would say to me? Anyway.
I'm glad that
Good
you're
for
the
him,
way
though.
that you are. That's a wrap on another episode of Moron Real Estate. We are the Homeboys. We thank you for kicking it with us. Till next time, happy investing.
All right, go ahead and clap. And whenever you want.
So unprofessional. I use the machine.